We're gonna make it look fly with some DIY. We're gonna make it look fly with some DIY. We're gonna make it look fly with some DIY. Uh-oh, thrift diving.
Hey, what's up? It's Serena Pia from thriftdiving.com, which is a podcast, a blog, and a YouTube channel that helps you decorate, improve, and maintain your home with paint, power tools, and thrift stores without sacrificing your budget, the environment, or style. Welcome to episode 82 of the Thrift Diving Podcast. Today, we are talking about embracing your authentic self and style. You know, I like talking about relevant topics to what's going on during the week, right? We've been doing that for the last 82 episodes. Well, sometimes it's because of this podcast that I'm allowed to just sit and think about how my week went so that I can think about what we're going to talk about on the podcast. And sometimes that thinking actually allows me to link together these experiences that I might never have otherwise seemed to reference to one another. That's what I love about this podcast. And I'm so thankful that you show up here every single week so I can just break apart my week and think about how it all relates together. Well, this week was kind of interesting. In fact, today is what sparked the topic for today's podcast. But then I saw that it was a common theme throughout my entire week. You see, an older woman today, she must have been in her 60s at the grocery store. She told me, she said, "You have beautiful legs." Well, let me rewind this story just a little bit and share that she and I were in the line together at the salad bar at the grocery store. And she started asking me about the salad I was ordering. Can you finish that whole salad in one sitting? And how long have you been a vegetarian? Are your kids vegetarian? And I shared with her that no, the salad was huge and it's usually split up into 2 meals. And by the way, if you live near College Park, Maryland, you have to stop into My Organic Market. They have such amazing options at Naked Lunch. This is like the fresh food counter in Mom's, and you get a ton of food for super cheap. Just putting it out there for anyone who lives in the area. Anyway, we chatted about my vegetarian experience and how I stopped eating meat about 20 years ago. And I told her that it was pretty easy, you know, raising vegetarian children, and some of them like salad, others don't. Anyway, we said our goodbyes and I got in line. And then while I was checking out, she approached me and she said, "How old are you?" Now, normally you could be very offended with that kind of question, but I'm always open with my age. And I told her, I said, "I'm 44. Well, then she told me, she said, "You know, you have beautiful legs." And then she proceeded to pull up her own pants leg and she flashed me her leg full of these blue-green stripes that look like tiger stripes. And they were varicose veins. And then she pulled it down. She told me the story of how she had given birth to her son and the things that she had to do to like deliver him. And I think he was in the NICU for maybe about a week, and just the stress on her body, how she believed this had caused her varicose veins and that she was now considering getting laser surgery. But then she was sharing, she's like, you know, laser surgery, even though it'll like make them become invisible, it actually kills the vein. And she's like, I don't want to do that kind of damage to my body. And I'll be honest with you, I never really was sure how laser surgery worked. But then of course I had to look it up right before this podcast. And it said that the laser actually damages the vein, which causes scar tissue to actually form. And then that scar tissue closes the vein. And then that closed vein loses its source of blood. It dies, it disappears. That's how you can't see it anymore. And then after a year or two, the vein is likely to disappear. Well, I had shown the woman my own little problematic vein in my right leg, and I never liked this vein. I mean, it's been there for years. And I told her, I was like, well, I've got one too. She's like, oh no, honey, that's nothing. So anyway, she told me that she wanted to have surgery, but she didn't want to do that. And I told her, well, I would always consider laser surgery too if my veins got worse. Anyway, after talking to this woman and realizing that, okay, this laser surgery literally kills the vein, I was like, I don't know if I'd ever want to do that. I don't know. I'd have to research it a little bit more and see what the risk factors would be. But anyway, at the time I confessed to this woman, I said, you know, at the beginning of summer, I made a goal to wear shorts again. And I have always been embarrassed of my legs, I was telling her. And, you know, I inherited my mom's legs. And they've always looked like chicken legs. You know, with a chicken leg, how it's bigger at the top and then it just gets progressively smaller and smaller and smaller till you get to like the ankles. Well, that's how my legs have looked. Whenever I've gained weight, I've always had these bigger thighs and these really skinny calves and skinny ankles. And I just never liked the way my legs look, especially as I gained weight. I got heavier with pregnancy. And then after pregnancy, I was not able to lose, or let me take that back. It wasn't that I wasn't able to lose weight. I never made it a priority. Well, in the last year, and I've been telling you this, I have lost and maintained about 14 pounds. And my goal at the beginning of this summer is that I was going to quit hiding my legs. I was going to start wearing shorts again. And some of them were going to be short shorts. So I told this woman, I said, your compliment is so appreciated because you have no idea. This was a goal of mine. And for you to tell me that my legs are beautiful, this makes me happy. Thank you. Anyway, I proceeded to pay for my groceries. I walked out of the store, and in the parking lot, she was packing her groceries into her car. She continued talking to me across the parking lot. And she just started like reiterating, I don't know. I was just considering that surgery, but I just wasn't sure. And I told her, I said, you know what? You should rock those shorts and you shouldn't be concerned about those varicose veins. You should just embrace them. That's what I told her. So she's like, well, she just kind of waved me off. We shared a smile, a laugh, a wave, and we went on our separate ways. But this interaction left me thinking about embracing our authentic self. I'd always found it difficult to embrace my authentic self because, as I told you about my legs, that's why I would previously wear these hot, long jeans to cover up my legs, afraid that they would be too pasty white. I didn't have enough of a tan on my legs and they'd look like chicken legs. And so previous years, I would always cover them up, afraid of how they would appear to the world. Well, let me tell you, today I pulled out my super short Lucky jeans. These were some jeans that years ago, they got this huge rip right along right in the, I don't want to say the crotch area, but a little bit lower than that. And I'd always planned that I was going to patch these up because these were like my favorite jeans. They were super soft, which is why I think they actually split. They were super soft and I didn't want to throw them away, but it was like right underneath the butt area that they just started to rip. So just at the beginning of summer, I told my husband, I'm just going to cut these off and I'm just going to cut them into Daisy Dukes. Now, some of you might be wondering, what are Daisy Dukes? If you're older, you would know Daisy Duke is from the Dukes of Hazzard. Well, there's a rap song that came out back, I think it was somewhere in like early 90s by this rap group called 69 Boys. You remember it was like, come on, baby, kick them daisies. Look at them girls with the Daisy Dukes on. I want you to look at them girls with the Daisy Dukes on. Everybody. Okay, enough singing. But when that song came on, everybody was just like, whoa, that's my jam. And it really made people think, oh my gosh, Daisy Dukes, I want to get some Daisy Dukes. Well, I was always afraid to wear them. Well, when I cut off those shorts at the beginning of summer, that's what they were. They were Daisy Dukes. And that's what I slid on today. And let me tell you, at the age of 44, I was wearing some Daisy Dukes today. I was working in the shed, working on my project. I felt good. I felt firm, tight, well-proportioned. Wasn't no chicken legs going on here. Nothing was hanging out. I even filmed a video of myself like walking, just making sure that there was nothing that was visible. And it wasn't, but they were short. But before I left the house, I second-guessed myself. My kids and I, we were going to go over to my mother-in-law's house, and I would have put money on her calling me out in her African accent. I even told the kids, I said, I bet you Nanaba's going to say, you want to wear short shorts, huh? I'm pretty sure she was going to say this to me. So I even considered changing to just avoid any kind of questions, to avoid my husband looking at me funny or any kind of comments that he might have said, like, why are you wearing them shorts out of the house? And so I was not embracing these shorts as much as I thought I would. I felt pretty good today, but then I felt a little awkward walking around my mother-in-law's house because I didn't change. And I was thinking that every time I walked by her, she was looking at my butt, and I was sure she was going to say something to me. Well, she didn't say anything, thankfully. But I was questioning if I should have worn that, if I looked too inappropriate, or if behind my back she was, the way African women love to do. Oh, by the way, she and I, we do have a good relationship. So, it's not that typical mother and daughter-in-law relationship. But still, I worried what she would think and what she would say. And I wasn't not so worried that I didn't change, but I still worried that I would feel a little uncomfortable and aware of myself and my choice. And then afterwards, that's when I went to the grocery store and the woman had complimented me, reaffirming that I can, and I did make the right choice to rock those Daisy Dukes. But when I got home today, I started pondering those interactions today. Why did I still feel like I needed some sort of external validation that the choice that I made was the right choice? Why couldn't I have just worn the shorts, felt good in them, no matter whether someone else affirmed how they looked or not? Which made me think about all the other external affirmations that we need for so many other things in our life, including how we decorate our home, how we raise our children, how we express ourselves. What about the career that we chose? We always need these external affirmations that we made the right choice, and the list goes on. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how we decorate our home. This includes furniture makeovers, or paint colors that we choose, or pictures that we decide to hang, or even where we purchased our home. So many of these choices that we make, we allow others to say and feel like, I don't know, like we give validation to what they say to dictate what we do. And if we continue on with our decision, we don't really embrace that decision with our full chest, right? We rationalize it to others. We have to explain ourselves and make excuses, all in hopes of others just seeing it our way and giving us a pass or a nod of approval for making the choice that we did, right? So we're always looking for these external validations that we did and said the right thing, or that we looked the right way. And I want to give you another example. So just this week, I mentioned that I was in my shed working on this sewing cabinet makeover. If you follow me on Facebook and Instagram, you may have seen little snippets, but it's this $40 sewing cabinet that I picked up about 10 years ago from the thrift store. It's got an oak veneer. It was in decent condition, but there was nothing fun about it, right? It was useful. I've used it before, but it was just, blah, didn't really look good. So Minwax is sponsoring it, and they wanted me to choose from some of their products to make it over. So I chose this solid stain. It kind of looks like paint, but it's a little thinner than paint, and you can tint the base with over 200 colors. So anyway, when I went to Lowe's to pick it up, I decided I was going to go with pink. Yeah, pink. The same color palette that I chose about 4 years ago. If you remember, I did this vintage French Provincial vanity, and I posted it on YouTube, and it did very well. It got over 3 million views. And there were some people that was like, oh my gosh, I love it. It's so pretty. I didn't even think that I liked pink furniture, and I typically don't, but I love this. And then there were some people that were like, oh my God, you ruined that antique. Well, first of all, it's 1980s. It even said on the bottom, 1980. So that's not an antique. For something to be an antique, it's got to be at least 100 years old. So no, this vintage 1980 vanity is not an antique. It's vintage. And then secondly, it wasn't ruined. I mean, I actually improved it because it was just some cast off at the thrift store. Nobody wanted it. And I will leave a link down below. So if you want to check that out, you can see it down in the show notes. But that video, like I said, has over 3 million views since I posted it 4 years ago. And so this week I started on the sewing cabinet, and guess what? The doubts started swirling in my head. I was thinking to myself, oh gosh, people are going to hate pink. And, people are not even going to love this video. It's not even going to look all that great. People aren't going to want to watch this. Or, my she shed is starting to look kind of juvenile, like a daycare, right? I've got all this pink going on. And so these were all the thoughts that were just swirling around in my head. And while I kept moving forward, I still held on to these doubts, thinking that, this direction that I'm going, I don't think it's going to be good enough. But the truth is that I absolutely love pink. I do. I cannot deny that fact. I love pink. I've started wearing like much more pink clothing. Over the years, I changed. Turquoise was the color I loved for everything in the house. Like all the walls were some sort of turquoise, greenish blue. And over the years, I just started gravitating towards like pink and purple. And even though I've got a house full of men, they don't even really care. So I can kind of get away with it. But I love pink because it's feminine. It's pretty. It makes me feel lighthearted inside. And, the pinks and the blues and the pastels and the floral patterns, this is kind of where I'm starting to go the direction in my, well, I call it my shed, but I really should start calling it my studio. It's too pretty to be a shed. Because when I say shed, people think of it as like a place to just store lawnmowers and tools. It's not that at all. It's going to be my happy place. And growing up, I was a huge tomboy, and there was a part of me, even though I was a tomboy, there was a part of me that still like really wanted to be girly. I liked boys. I wanted to be frilly and feminine, but that wasn't my reality. And when I thought about my bedroom, I wanted something that was frilly and feminine, but I just never had it. I don't even think my bedroom was decorated at that time. I mean, like seriously. And there was a cousin that I had. Her name is Danielle. She's about 7 years younger. And I just remember when we would visit her house, she had this really pretty canopy bed. Remember those, like from the 80s, where the top part was all ruffled and it was like a twin size white. In fact, it might even have been part of that whole French provincial furniture line. I don't know. But everything in her room was pink, and she had buckets of toys and lots of things to discover. I loved it. And I remember just feeling like I wanted my own bedroom to look like that, but it never did. So years later, when I was like 23, 24, I made a list of things I wanted to do before I die. And it wasn't really, some of the things on there was like, oh, I'm going to go hang gliding, and things I would maybe even never do now because I have kids and I do not want to die. But some of the things were more like guidelines or just like a wish list. And one of the things that I wrote down that I wanted was to have a sunroom with lots of pastels and bright sunlight coming in where I could watch my favorite all-time show, The Golden Girls. Like that was my epitome of just happiness and also owning a golden retriever. Of course, that will never happen. My husband is 100% against me owning any sort of pet. That's a whole other topic. But anyway, this was what my ultimate happy place was going to look like, right? I mean, for me, I wanted it to be a sunroom, but it could have been anything like a bedroom. And of course, now that I've got this shed, that's what I envision being my happy place, with lots of bright light, which I have. That's why I've got 6 windows and 4 skylights. Actually, I could say that I have 6 windows plus a glass door and 4 skylights. So even when it's overcast, I mean, it could be raining outside with like thunderstorms and it still feels light and bright and airy inside. That makes me so happy. And, when I got this shed, I could envision those pastels and the florals and like splashes of vibrant color with crisp, white, clean backdrops of walls. I mean, that's what I wanted, and that's what I'm turning this into. So that's why when I did those DIY roller shades recently, that's why I chose the pretty florals, because that's in line with what I've always envisioned my happy place being. And by the way, you can find the link for those DIY roller shades down in the show notes. So although my studio, my shed is turning into, very slowly, this pretty bright space that I've always craved, even from my childhood, I still feel a little bit awkward showing parts of it to friends and family, and even to you, like the thrift diving community, whether it's you're part of my podcast only, or maybe my blog or my YouTube channel. I still sometimes feel a little awkward showing it off, because I wonder how many people will be thinking, oh, that's just childish. It looks juvenile. In fact, one of my male friends, I showed him a picture of that pretty little file cabinet makeover that I did recently. And his comment was something to the effect, wow, I mean, this is via text. Wow, that looks great. It would look nice in a kid's room, or something about holding diapers. And he wasn't being a jerk or anything like that. He really liked the project, but I mean, it was blue on the outside, like a baby blue kind of, and the inside was pink. I mean, it looked like something that could hold diapers. But regardless, it was so cute. It was so pretty, and I just could not wait to like put it in my shed. I mean, it's in my shed, but I don't have any files in there yet. But I was excited that this was part of this developing narrative of what this shed was going to be, right? But it got me questioning, like, how do we move forward with our projects, with decorating our house or decorating our office, or even displaying, I don't know, like your ceramic pig collection or cow collection without worrying how it's going to be perceived by others? Or how do we wear what we want without a genuine care about how it's going to be perceived by others, even though we think we look amazing in it? How do we do that? I mean, I think there's a big difference between like what's appropriate. For example, like you're not going to wear a swimsuit to a black tie event. So that's not what I'm talking about, like just going to the fringe of what's appropriate or what's not appropriate. But what I mean is like that fine line between what others expect of you and what you want for yourself. So here's my advice, and this is the only advice that I can come up with as I'm navigating this myself, and you might be navigating this as well, is to push the envelope and give that thing a shot that feels authentic to you. I don't care what it is. It could be like your love of antiques, but maybe your sister thinks they're quote unquote tacky or dirty. Or it could be like that fear of your mother-in-law commenting on an outfit that you absolutely love and you think it's amazing, but she's like, yeah, that's a little young for you. Or it could be painting a piece of furniture that you did that you're proud of, but your Facebook friends are all saying, oh my gosh, you ruined it. You ruined that antique. So I think the next part is just to embrace it. You know, don't make any apologies or feel that you have to explain yourself. You know, if your sister comments that that antique desk doesn't fit in with any of your decor, I mean, just tell her, well, I think it looks amazing here next to my bed. Or if your mother-in-law makes this, you know, disapproving tisking at your Daisy Dukes, you can say, well, I know, don't my legs look great? And then what about like your Facebook friends? They tell you that, oh my gosh, you ruined that wood furniture with paint. Well, maybe you just tell them, oh my gosh, I had the best time painting this piece of furniture. Like, oh my gosh, it was so much fun. When your friends tell you that your project looks awesome for an infant's room, well, you tell them it makes you smile because it turned out so awesome. So it's not about insulting them for their insult. And sometimes they don't even realize they're insulting you. They might think they're just trying to help you. I don't know. Sometimes people can be very intentional with their negative comments, but it's about waving away any negativity and just highlighting the beauty of it that you love. It's about embracing your authentic self. And I'm getting goosebumps as I'm talking about this, and I hope that you are too. It's about living your truth. It's about making no excuses for your decisions or feeling like you have to explain why you made that decision. I mean, even just this afternoon when the woman complimented my legs, I mean, why did I feel like I had to tell her? You know, maybe I wanted to tell her because I felt that she would really appreciate how much I appreciated her comment. But I didn't really have to explain. I could have just been like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Or, you know, think about that piece of clothing that somebody compliments you on, right? Like, your dress is so cute. And you're like, yeah, it's got pockets. Or, yeah, you know, I found it for $5 at the thrift store. I mean, I know we're a little proud to show those things off and tell people, but sometimes why don't we just say thank you? And, you know, it doesn't have to be like a somber, oh, thank you. It can be like, oh my gosh, thank you. But we don't have to necessarily explain. And maybe it's something that women do. I don't know. Do men do this? If there's any men listening to this podcast, I would love to know if you men experience that as well. Or you feel like you have to explain things. Somehow I feel like it's not the case with men. But I feel like for women, we always want to explain something. Well, I really like painting furniture. You know, why do we have to explain that? We don't. So I think, you know, it might feel uncomfortable for us at first, but I think the more that we just practice saying or responding when someone questions us, well, because it makes me happy. or because I look good, or because this is how I want my room to look. That's all we need. Maybe we don't even need to say that. Maybe we just smile and turn away. I don't know. But for me, I'd have to say something. But maybe it is just saying, well, because it makes me happy. I'm decorating my shed like this, my studio like this, because it makes me happy. So if it's infantile, that's okay because it makes me happy. And anytime somebody says this, it's going to make us feel uncomfortable because we're going to want to explain it. But how about we just start embracing our authentic self and not have to explain it? We know the reason why, and maybe people don't have to know. Maybe they just need to know because it makes me happy. So I want to know about you. Have you ever felt the need to explain away or make excuses for your decisions, whether it was the way you decorated your home or the way you dressed or styled yourself, or you cut your hair or dyed your hair in such a way you felt like you had to explain yourself? You couldn't really just embrace it. Whatever the example, what happened? I want to know if this has happened to you and how did you handle it? And if this message is resonating with you right now, are you embracing this message? Because this is the message that I have for you that I really wanted to share that was relevant to my week. Send me an email, serena@thriftdiving.com, or you can just hit me up on Instagram @thriftdiving. Send me a message in my DM. Let me know how you feel about that and about this topic. And I wanted to give you a little quick update on my mini split. So for those of you who are following my She Shed updates, my studio updates, remember in the last episode, I told you that I'd been waiting on my mini split. This is a Mitsubishi mini split for AC and heat. It's been 11 weeks. And I was talking about the supply chain issues. They've been horrific. Well, I decided that I was going to put my impatiently waiting skills to work. So I took to the internet and found another supplier who's outside of my HVAC supplier, right? Like my HVAC guy, he has maybe one or two suppliers that he's waiting to get some sort of update from. And I said to him, I was like, look, I'm just going to go on the internet, see if I can find another supplier. Well, guess what? It paid off. I found another supplier that's about 4 hours away from me. And when I did my research, I actually had found out that the indoor unit for my mini split, it's back ordered until October 26th. Can you believe that? I mean, that's like 7 to 8 weeks away from now. And that's on top of the 11 weeks I've already been waiting. Of course, it could have been 12 weeks. Let's say 3 months. So there was no way in the world that I wanted to wait another 8 to 10 weeks for this mini split. I mean, I don't trust the world post-COVID. I just don't. So even though they say October 26th, even if I was patiently waiting, there's no guarantee that October 26th, there's going to be an interior indoor unit for my mini split system. So anyway, I decided that I was going to drive up to Washington, Pennsylvania this week and go and snag this indoor unit and then bring it back. Because they're like, hey, we can't ship it. We don't want it to get damaged. We've got the closest one to you is Washington, Pennsylvania, and we have it here for you. Your HVAC guy called us. He paid for it. So that's what I'm doing on Tuesday. Now, the good thing is I'm actually kind of looking forward to it because even though it's a 4-hour drive, it's not really that far. It's kind of exciting, like going on a one-day road trip by myself. And so what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to leave my house 6 a.m. I'm going to get there maybe 10:30, depending on traffic. I don't know how that's going to go. And then pick up the unit and then drive back. And I'm from Hagerstown, Maryland, which is Western Maryland. So most likely I'll get into Hagerstown on the way back and hang out with my mom for a couple hours, and do an impromptu mother-daughter day. So she's excited about it. I'm excited about it. And it's going to be fabulous. And just to know that I'm going to have my indoor unit in my van this week, it's very exciting. Now, I'm not going to be able to get it installed until next week because this Wednesday, I'm actually heading down to Orlando for the FinCon conference, which is this conference for financial bloggers. And even though that's not my niche per se, I've gone to this conference, I think at least 2 or 3 times before. And I love it because it's full of people who love money, whether it's investing, in stocks, real estate investing, people who are there saving money, being thrifty, retiring early. There's a lot of FIRE people. So FIRE is financially independent, retire early. So they're called the FIRE community. So there's a lot of people in that group that actually come to this conference, and they blog about it and have YouTube channels and podcasts and stuff. And there's a lot of people there talking about being debt free. So even though I don't necessarily talk about those things here on Thrift Diving, which who knows, maybe this would be a great segment or segue, I should say, into those topics. Those are my tribe of people. People that love money, people that love investing, people that love being debt free. So this conference is great. It's going to be in Orlando from the 7th through the 11th. So that's where I'm going to be. And when I am there, I don't know, maybe I'll have an opportunity to record or interview somebody for a podcast. That would actually be really great. So I may or may not be able to upload something this coming week. But I think because I'm going to be around all of these quote unquote money nerds, that's how the FinCon community is considered, money nerds. That could be a great way to maybe segue into some of these topics with people in the FinCon community. So stay tuned for that. We'll see what we can pull together. But, we've been doing this podcast, you and I, for, the last year and a half, more than a year and a half, January of 2021. And I am so happy to admit that I have not missed 1 week of publishing. That is actually significant because if you are part of my YouTube channel, if you're part of my email list, you'll know that there'll be weeks that go by and I don't put anything out. But this podcast, I'm dedicated to it every week. And typically I publish on Fridays, but the last number of weeks, I don't know, Fridays come and go and they're just so busy. I'm like, I'll get to it on Sunday. So that's why it's like close to 10 p.m. and this is just dropping. But that's okay. As long as it's here for you in your inbox for the start of your week, I'm happy with that, as long as it gets uploaded. So we will try to talk about some money things since, that's a lot of what they're going to be talking about at FinCon. Maybe we can find some great little clips or interviews we can do with people and, I don't know, put together something a little different for episode 83. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode, number 82. Be sure to come back again for 83, and I will see you next episode.